Good morning, everyone. It's the 1st of 2023. It's Friday morning. I hope you're ready for a good weekend. We're ready for the 18th chapter of Acts, and one of the most significant verses in this is the 13th verse, which states, saying, "This fellow persuadeth men to worship God contrary to the law," speaking of Paul. They were saying that Paul was trying to teach men to worship God contrary to the law. Paul was teaching the faith of Christ, to believe on Christ as the Messiah, as the Son of God, as the one who came to save his people from their sins. And this was contrary to the law. After these things, Paul departed from Athens and came to Corinth, and found a certain Jew named Aquila, born in Pontus, lately come from Italy with his wife Priscilla, because that Claudius had commanded all Jews to depart from Rome, and came unto them. And because he was one of the same craft, he boat with them and wrought, for by their occupation they were tent makers. Paul didn't mind working with his hands. You don't find a lot of preachers today out working with their hands. I admire Michael Smith. He gets out, he's got 5 kids, and he gets out and works a full-time job and then preaches on Sunday. It's highly unusual. And he reasoned in the synagogues every Sabbath, and persuaded the Jews and the Greeks. And when Silas and Timotheus were come from Macedonia, Paul was pressed in the Spirit, and testified to the Jews that Jesus was Christ. And when they opposed themselves and blasphemed, he shook his raiment, and said unto them, Your blood be upon your own heads. I am clean. From henceforth I will go unto the Gentiles. And he departed thence, and entered into a certain man's house named Justus, one that worshipped God, whose house joined hard to the synagogue. And Crispus, the chief ruler of the synagogue, believed on the Lord with all his house. And many of the Corinthians hearing believed, and were baptized. Then spake the Lord to Paul in the night by vision, Be not afraid, but speak, and hold not thy peace. For I am with thee, and no man shall set on thee to hurt thee, for I have much people in this city. And he continued there 1 year and 6 months, teaching the word of God among them. That's really interesting that Paul was there in Corinth for 1.5 years teaching. And when Gallo was deputy of Achaia, the Jews made insurrection with one accord against Paul, and brought him to the judgment seat, saying, This fellow persuadeth men to worship God contrary to the law. And when Paul was now about to open his mouth, Gallio said unto the Jews, If it were a matter of wrong or wicked lewdness, or ye Jews reason, would that I should bear with you. But if it be a question of words and names, and of your law, look ye to it, for I will no judge of such matter. I will be no judge of such matters. And he drove them from the judgment seat. Then all the Greeks took Sosthenes, the chief ruler of the synagogue, and beat him before the judgment seat. In Galilee cared for none of those things. And Paul after this tarried there yet a good while, and then took his leave of the brethren, and sailed thence into Syria, and with him Priscilla and Aquila, having shorn his head in Cenchrea, for he had a vow. And he came to Ephesus, and left them there But he himself entered into the synagogue and reasoned with the Jews. When they had desired him to tarry longer with them, he consented not, but bade them farewell, saying, I must by all means keep this feast that cometh in Jerusalem, but I will return again unto you if God will. And he sailed from Ephesus. And when he had landed at Caesarea and gone up and saluted the church, he went down to Antioch. And after he had spent some time there, he departed and went over all the country of Galatia and Phrygia, in order strengthening all the disciples. And a certain Jew named Apollos, born of Alexander, an eloquent man and mighty in the Scriptures, came to Ephesus. The man was instructed in the way of the Lord, and being fervent in the Spirit, he taught diligently the things of the Lord, knowing only the baptism of John. And he began to speak boldly in the synagogue, whom when Aquila and Priscilla had heard, they took him unto them, and expounded unto him the way of God more perfectly. And when he was disposed to pass into Achaia, the brethren wrote, exhorting the disciples to receive him, who then when he was come, helped them much which had believed through grace. For he mightily convinced the Jews, and that publicly, showing by the Scriptures that Jesus was Christ. Well, we have here, I can see why this particular book of the Bible is called Acts, because it tells all of the actions of the apostles, does it not? They were very busy going about doing God's work during this time. It starts out by talking about how that Paul departed from Athens and came to Corinth. And here he practiced tent making amongst them, and it says Paul was pressed in his spirit and testified to the Jews that Jesus was Christ. As they opposed themselves and blasphemed, and he said, I'm clean, I will go to the Gentiles. Many of the Corinthians, hearing, believed and were baptized. And he was there in Corinth a year and a half, teaching the Word of God among them. Well, they tried to say that he was teaching contrary to the law. There's a lot of people that are trying to say that those who are teaching the sovereign grace of God are teaching contrary to the law. They lay a lot of charges against us. They call us antinomians. They call us, a lot of things. But, we're in the same camp as Paul. And it says that Apollos mightily convinced the Jews, publicly showing by the Scriptures that Jesus was Christ. For by grace you are saved through faith, not of works, lest any man should boast, not of the law. There are many Scriptures that say that we have the faith of Christ. It's not about law keeping. It's not about continuing in the Mosaic law. It's about the faith of Christ that's been given to us, and proclaiming it far and wide that Christ is the very Messiah, the Son of God. Many people do not want to hear the truth, but they go about in their darkness thinking they can work their way to salvation, work their way to heaven. when God's already completed all the work? It's already been done. Christ said it is finished, and the veil of the temple was rent in twain from the top to the bottom. He entered once into the holy place, obtaining eternal redemption for us. He's the author and finisher of our faith. For the joy that was set before him, he endured the cross, and he despised the shame, and he sat down at the right hand of God, making intercession for us. Well, are you teaching contrary to the law? That was really a compliment they gave Paul when they said he was teaching contrary to the law. I hope that I will be remembered as being one who taught contrary to the law. I'm no longer under the old covenant, but I'm under the new covenant. That better covenant speaketh better things than Abel. Not by the blood of bulls and goats, but he entered once in the holy place. May the good Lord be with you today is my prayer. God bless.